rappers, they all look the same to him. They used to beg him not to egg him on Halloween. He told him holler back with the suede Pumas, dollar green. Nah, I mean, heat it up till the temperature tarball. Y'all just gawk like gargoyle.
Tier Zoo satisfies like the nerdy part of my brain. I love this stuff, man. I love this stuff. It's just so it's the video game theme, bro. Like, come on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Video game nerd over here. It's perfect for me. It's right up my alley, man. I hate that I get all of his references too, man. I swear I feel like a nerd. The mollusk tier list. Tier Zoo. Look at the music, man. Damn! I don't think I ever seen squids fight, bro.
Mollusks are one of the most diverse factions in the entire game. Indeed, much.
Oh, here goes that freaky ass sea slug, bro. How that weird little alien thing is the most poisonous thing on the damn in the damn sea. Damn near.
More diverse than I think most players realize. They're extremely popular both among casual and competitive players.
Nah, what the fuck is? What the hell?
And I think most players realize they're extremely.
Oh nah, bro. I ain't gonna lie. That if I seen that in person, I'm literally dumping a gallon of salt on the snail.
Popular both among casual and competitive players.
That's ridiculous.
With some builds demanding incredible levels of skill to pilot, while others are practically AFK. And with so many different potential mollusk builds to choose from, it can be difficult to know which builds are actually competitively viable in the current meta. So today, we're going to go through the mollusk tier list. While I attempt to cover as many of the popular well-known builds as I can, mollusks are an extremely broad category, second only to arthropods in terms of number of individual members. So inevitably, some are getting left out of this video for the sake of time.
Okay.
Still, by highlighting standout builds in both the high and low...
Okay. Okay, because I have a hard time remembering what exactly qualifies as a mollusk. Like, is it like, I know it's clams and oysters and stuff. Like, come on now, and then relax on me. But like, I seen like he had cuttlefish and shit. Like, I thought that was a cephalopod.
Out of this video for
and I didn't know a snail was a well. I guess a mollusk is anything that has a shell. Like, it has like a. Yeah, it has like a hard shell. I guess that would be a mollusk, right?
Still,
like
by highlighting standout builds.
Just a sea urchin isn't a mollusk, because I might be tweaking.
Builds in both the high and low tiers. Hopefully I can give you a good understanding of where the mollusk faction fits into the current metagame, and will be able to fill in the gaps for yourself. But before we dive into the tier list, what is a mollusk? And what are their common attributes?
Okay, yeah.
Mollusks are a huge group, encompassing all gastropods, all bivalves, and all cephalopods.
Oh, it includes cephalopods. That's crazy. Damn, I didn't know that. A cephalopod is a mollusk? That's ridiculous.
While every group has its outliers, most factions at least have some consistency in their base stats.
Yeah.
Birds tend to have pretty high mobility, mammals tend to have high intelligence, arthropods high defense, and so on. With mollusks, though, it's pretty hard to pin down any obvious through line. Pick any one stat and you can probably find a mollusk both at the top and bottom of the charts. But one thing you will not find is a mollusk with basic middle-of-the-road stats. While the numbers and combinations will vary greatly between builds, one thing I've noticed is that just about every mollusk has something extreme about it.
Yeah, because I didn't know mollusks included cephalopods, bro. That just broke the damn game right there. Like, that's ridiculous. You talking about stupidly high intelligence.
With at least one stat being either incredibly high or abysmally low. But anyway, given just how hard it is to generalize them, we may as well just dive straight into the tier list.
Let's do it.
At the bottom of F tier, we have the common slug. Now, while this build...
These things be on my damn trash can, bro. I'm glad you're F tier.
...may look like it has all the downsides of the snail without any of the benefits of the snail's protective shell, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it looks like. The garden slug genuinely has some of the worst stats in the entire game, with even its best stat being fairly mid. Its only defensive ability is its slime, which does help ward off attacks from insects.
I ain't gonna lie, I would be mad as shit if I woke up as a slug one day. Like, why?
It's a double-edged sword though, as their slime also leaves a trail, making slugs one of the easiest builds in the game to track down. Now, I will admit, there are some advantages to not having a shell, the main one being that slugs can slip through much smaller cracks, and hide underground much more easily.
Ugh.
However...
Like, what evolutionary process led to having like this little slimy looking dookie, bro. Like, it's how did you evolve to this? Like, what happened that made you evolve into a slimy little dookie turd?
Since they need to come out to feed anyway, this doesn't really help them avoid predation all that well.
Damn.
So with all these negatives and pretty much nothing else going for them, the snail without a shell is going in F tier.
Yeah.
Next in F tier we have the common clam, a build that
dude, it's freaking to me that clams are like actual living things and aren't just rocks, bro. Like, that's so freaky to me.
exemplifies the extreme stat lines I was talking about to a T. With no eyes, terrible movement abilities, and no attacking moves, and no brain, the clam has to rely on only 2 stats, both of which are quite high.
How are you even alive at that point? You don't have a brain, you can't see, you can't move. Are you even alive at that point?
The first is their stealth, on account of the clam's surprisingly decent burrowing ability.
Why the fuck can a clam move? Why are we just cool with this?
Both of which are quite high. The first is their...
The fact that SpongeBob was accurate is crazy, bro, because clams literally used to fly in that show. The fact that clams can really swim is ridiculous to me.
their stealth, on account of the clam's surprisingly decent burrowing ability. By wedging themselves into the seabed, they can stay out of sight from most potential threats. But if an enemy manages to find them in spite of this, the clam has some of the heaviest armor of any mollusk, being able to deflect some pretty substantial damage. But with no ability to counterattack or escape, eventually a persistent attacker will deal enough damage to spell game over. Well, okay, technically clams can
That shit is freaky as hell. Like, that clam needs to be at a Diddy party.
move, but I mean, come on. In the current meta, this just isn't enough. What's worse is that even though clams can burrow down to hide, in order to survive they need to filter feed, and to do that, they must poke their most vulnerable weak point above the surface of the seabed, giving away their hiding spot and opening themselves up to a devastating critical hit.
Jesus.
At the top of F tier we have the common snail. The garden snail has most of the same weaknesses as the previous 2 entries on the tier list, but slightly less severe. Snails are every bit as slow and non-threatening as slugs, but they do at least have a shell to help block attacks. They can even use their shell to shield bash attackers in a pinch, though this
See, like, I understand why a snail exists a lot more than a slug, bro. Like, a slug, you literally just been, like, cursed. I'm not gonna hold you.
doesn't do much damage. However, similar to the clam, because of how slow their movement speed is, and how weak their counterattacks are, eventually an aggressive player will be able to punch through their defenses. So they're not the worst of the worst, but compared to some of the unique and powerful abilities we'll see higher up on the tier list, the basic snail build just isn't gonna cut it.
Yeah.
At the bottom of D tier, we have the Scallop.
Now, okay, this is... Yo, I'm not gonna lie, bro. This thing... How do you exist, man? This is the one that can swim, not the clam. I was wrong about that.
The Scallop is essentially a more decked out version of the clam,
Yeah.
though it has a lower...
Did you just see how that motherfucker just took off? How did it do that? Is there something about... I know that mollusks can somehow, like, shoot water out in just the right angle to move, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
We have the Scallop.
Look at this thing. First of all, bro, this nigga look like it looks like just a disembodied mouth.
Is essentially a more decked
The fact that it has eyes is crazy.
out version of the clam. Though it has a lower base defense stat than the clam, its weaknesses
How is it doing this?
are also much less pronounced. Instead of being completely immobile, scallops, oddly enough, have the jet propulsion ability, something usually only found in cephalopods and box jellies.
I can understand how that thing is moving. You can explain this to me 1,000 times. I will never understand how this thing is moving.
But it has a high cooldown. This ability gives them an escape option if they're ever under direct attack, something every other build on this list so far desperately needs.
Crazy.
Of course, being able to flee from battle wouldn't do them much good if they couldn't see attacks coming. But thankfully, scallops also spec into primitive eyes, enabling them to detect predators and reposition themselves accordingly. In theory, anyway. One of the issues with simple eyes is that even the most basic stealth techniques, such as, for example, moving very slowly, can get past their danger sense, resulting in the scallops getting regularly bodied by starfish.
Starfish is another thing I don't understand.
So while they're definitely a bit more versatile than some mollusks, I can't give them too much credit.
Yeah.
Next in D tier, we're going to have the first of the cephalopods on our tier list, the chambered Nautilus. The Nautilus is a slow-moving,
Minecraft.
armored scavenger build that sustains itself mostly on detritus and carrion that is sunk to the bottom of the sea, while being able to swim while
Okay, I'm looking at this thing and I don't understand this player build. So is this all empty and like its whole organs and shit is right. Like how is this thing built?
Rocking a tough shell is impressive. Their terrible swim speed shows just how power crept this ancient build has gotten. Their perception stat is also pretty mid, especially for a cephalopod, which on average have some of the best vision of any marine build. The Nautilus used to be a much more popular build until seals and sea lions were added to the game, as their high agility and armor-piercing bite gave them a crushing matchup versus the Nautilus. So, while it is impressive that the Nautilus has made it through
Like, what the fuck is this?
some of the roughest balance patches in the game's history, the fact that they were driven to the depths by seals doesn't scream high tier to me.
I just want to look up and try to understand how a damn Nautilus is functioning, bro. Geographic
First in
Cone.
C tier, we have the Geographic Cone. This marine snail build rocks pretty much all the same
hell
strengths and
nah.
weaknesses as your average snail, with one major exception. This snail can one-shot just about anything. The Geographic Cone has a venomous harpoon which it uses to hunt fish, but it can
What?
also use it to defend itself in a pinch. Now, the Geographic Cone is still incredibly slow and really not all that stealthy, so actually landing a hit on a fish is a bit of a challenge. Still, this is one gastropod you really don't want to underestimate. The cone
What the fuck?
snail's harpoon pierces armor, so any starfish main who thinks that all mollusks are easy pickings is in for a rude awakening.
What the fuck is this? I don't understand this thing.
Next in
Dumbo
C tier, we have
Octopus.
the
Okay, not too much on my boy. All right, that's ridiculous. Who was the scientist that named him the Dumbo Octopus, bro? We gotta throw hands. He's chilling. He ain't doing nobody
Dumbo
dirty.
Octopus. This is one of the strangest cephalopod builds in the entire game, and lacks a lot of the signature abilities players normally associate with the octopus. But it also has a mix of other unique traits that normal octopuses don't.
Yeah.
You see, the Dumbo Octopus is a deep sea build, and on that server, the normal stealth techniques simply don't apply.
Yeah.
Color changing and ink clouds aren't going to do a player any good when most of the major threats aren't relying on vision anyway.
No light gets down there at all.
So even though those abilities are what the octopus is best known for, unfortunately the Dumbo Octopus has to find other ways to remain hidden from predators.
Jesus.
And unfortunately this means it needed to make even more trade-offs. Rather than using jet propulsion, which is a conspicuous and turbulent, but incredibly effective movement ability, the Dumbo Octopus swims using large fins on the side of its mantle. This is significantly slower, but a great deal stealthier too.
Yeah.
This makes it too slow to catch fish, but it's still able to thrive off of its winning matchup versus crustaceans. Its webbed tentacles are perfect for surrounding and capturing targets on
That's the Dumbo Octopus doing that?
the seafloor. So definitely an interesting build, but by having to sacrifice so much of what makes the octopus so overpowered, the Dumbo Octopus is definitely one of the lower tier ones.
Shout out to my boy. Bobtail Squid.
And at the top of C tier, we also have the first squid on our list, the Bobtail Squid. This is another cephalopod which uses a fairly unorthodox ability to boost its stealth. As one of the smallest cephalopods in the game, the Bobtail Squid really cannot take any hits. So
What the fuck?
in order to avoid most of the ocean's major threats, the bobtail buries itself during the day and only comes out at night. However, even under cover of darkness, the Bobtail Squid would still be at risk of being attacked. Though it's somewhat counterintuitive, on a night where the moon and stars are unobscured, detecting another player in the water isn't as hard as you might think. The shadows they cast in the water are highly visible and give away a player's location immediately, making it very easy for predators lurking below to strike. The Bobtail Squid deals with this by speccing into an extremely rare and strange ability, bioluminescence. It may seem backwards to hide by glowing, but doing so obscures the squid by removing its shadow. Of course, this does make them easier to detect from above, but attacks at night from seabirds are much less common. The bobtail may have the lowest stats of any cephalopod, but its unique and creative way of hiding in plain sight keeps it out of the low tiers.
That's really cool. But why is it so tiny?
I can't give it too much credit though, because
Like,
while
look at that
its
thing. He looks like he would sit on my thumb.
strategy for stealth at night is clever, honestly it's not that good at hiding during the daytime, having a seemingly worse ability to camouflage itself due to its bright coloration.
Yeah. Leaf
At
sheep.
the bottom of B tier, we have the leaf sheep,
This nigga look like a Pikmin enemy.
a sea slug with a truly unique
What
ability
is
called
this?
kleptoplasty. Leaf sheep is able to absorb the chloroplasts from the algae it consumes, essentially stealing the algae's photosynthesis ability. This
What?
ability generates XP passively over time, allowing them to grow, heal, and regenerate their energy without
That's dead ass really cool.
eating. It's hard to overstate
It looks like a
time, allowing them
look at this. It looks like this is a tiny little head and these are some big ass arms like doing this.
to grow, heal, and regenerate their energy without eating. It's hard to overstate how game-breaking this ability would be if it weren't on a character with otherwise pathetic base stats. For a human, this would basically be like if sitting in the sun provided you with the same benefits as eating well and working out.
That's
Unlike some of
crazy.
the sea slugs higher up on this list, the leaf sheep doesn't really have any defensive abilities. But if you want a character that is extremely forgiving in terms of the resource management side of things, the leaf sheep may actually be the best build in the game for anyone looking for that chill casual playstyle.
I like how that one looks too. Giant squid.
On
Damn,
pretty much the
only
exact
B tier?
opposite end of the spectrum, next in B tier we have the giant squid. Now obviously this thing's HP stat is extreme, with
Yeah.
it being the largest mollusk in the game. But one thing I bet you weren't expecting was for it to also have the highest perception stat of any mollusk.
Its eyeball is huge as shit. Isn't its eyeball as big as a plate?
I mentioned before that in the dark depths of the ocean, the normal stealth mechanics don't apply. Well, the giant squid is the exception to this. Its eyes are so large, the largest in the game in fact, that even with
Damn.
only a tiny fraction of a percent of sunlight making it to the depths, the giant squid can still see.
That's ridiculous.
This is bad news for all the deep sea builds that assumed camouflage wasn't necessary and spec'd their character accordingly. This incredible eyesight is necessary for more than just hunting though. Being gigantic unfortunately makes you extremely easy to detect via echolocation,
Yeah.
so they have to remain vigilant constantly to avoid being ambushed by the Abyssal server's true
Jesus.
apex predator. Luckily, their vision has a range just barely more than that of the whale's sonar, so as long as they're on top of their game, they should be able to outmaneuver and avoid
Golly,
attacks.
it sounds like it's a battle. It's a battle. Damn, bright ass squid. It sounds like it's a fucking battle every day of your life with that one.
On this same tier, I'm also going to include the Colossal Squid, which has many of the same traits as the giant squid, including massive eyes and incredible dark vision. The Colossal Squid does have a few subtle differences in its kit though. It's slightly heavier, but also less mobile, relying on ambushes using its 2 extra long arms to capture prey, as opposed to the giant squid's more traditional method of rushing down a target with an array of tentacles. The
Damn.
Colossal Squid also has hooks on its arms, which do more damage and can inflict bleed buildup, making them much
Jesus.
more dangerous for whales to attack,
My boy Squidward fights back.
making up for their slower swim speed. However, at the end of the day, both the giant squid and colossal squid have terrible matchups against whales. And because of their large size, their energy upkeep costs are insane. So they have to play pretty much a perfect game to avoid getting smoked.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like it's an actual struggle.
Are powerful builds if you know what you're doing, but not without their limitations. At the
Like this weird thing.
bottom of A tier, we have another sea slug, the blue sea dragon. Similar to the leaf sheep, this slug also has the power to copy the ability of its main food source. But in this case, the blue dragon isn't consuming algae, it's consuming jellyfish.
Yeah.
The blue sea dragon is able to absorb the venomous nematocysts from the tentacles of their prey, and in doing so, gains a massive buff in the form of an equally deadly sting at the tip of its frills. This is incredible, as the blue sea dragon is able to gain the most powerful ability of the jellyfish faction without any of the awful downsides.
See, you're not supposed to touch it with your bare hands, crazy.
Like, you know, being literally brainless and having no control over their own movement. Blue sea dragons also have much better stealth than a lot of sea slugs, using the counter-shading technique with a bright underbelly and dark blue backside, making them hard to see both from above and below. While not quite as OP as some of the cephalopod mollusks, the blue sea dragon definitely stands above all other slugs and snails as a unique and formidable outlier.
That's crazy. Common
Next in A
octopus.
tier we have the common octopus, a solid representative of the octopus faction as a whole. It possesses the core abilities that define the octopus build, along with its inherent vulnerabilities. Its 2 standout strengths are stealth and intelligence. The
That's still freaky to me how quickly they can change their colors, bro.
common octopus boasts some of the best stealth in the game, capable of changing both its color and texture to blend seamlessly into virtually any environment.
That's legitimately freaky as hell, bro. Like that thing really is like damn near has a cloak of invisibility on it.
Dense weeds, jagged rocks, or barren seabeds. And if its camouflage fails and it's ever spotted, it
It just
can deploy an ink
dookies on you.
cloud to temporarily debuff the attacker's perception stat, usually buying enough time to escape. However, escape is often its only viable option, as the octopus has some of the lowest defenses in the game. With no armor whatsoever, any hit it takes can deal devastating damage. Even in a server as perilous as the ocean, where threats abound regardless of armor, the common octopus must play cautiously. Bites from everyday fish can pose a serious risk, so
Yeah.
despite its impressive abilities, it requires careful strategy to survive. Speaking of bites though, one lesser known but important ability the octopus has is venom, which it delivers via a bite with its sharp beak.
What?
Finally, now's as good a time as any to say that although it's not a combat weakness, The octopus's biggest weakness is its low lifespan. Given that a lot of the octopus's best tricks need to be learned, either by observation or trial and error, the octopus's already powerful intelligence would be a lot more powerful if the devs allowed it to be refined over the course of a few decades, like dolphins, parrots, and humans get. This weakness is pervasive through the entire cephalopod faction, which is interesting because some of the other mollusks are pretty much the exact opposite.
Damn.
But yeah, this is why despite their many overpowered abilities, it's hard to give any cephalopods a top tier rank unless they're truly broken in even more ways than usual.
Okay, I understand that.
Ranking slightly higher in A tier, the giant octopus adapts on the octopus archetype with one minor tweak, trading some stealth for greater strength. While it retains the ability to change color and texture to blend into its surroundings, and can deploy an ink cloud to escape threats, it's less adept at stealth than the common octopus due to its larger size, which makes it more noticeable when moving. However, this trade-off comes with significant advantages. Its above-average bulk gives it a wider margin of error in confrontations. Unlike the typically less brawny octopus build,
Fighting a shark is crazy.
the giant octopus boasts impressive physical power, with arms capable of wrestling mid-sized sharks and a beak that deals substantial slicing damage, in addition to being venomous. It also shares the same high intelligence that other octopuses do, enabling it to tackle problems and improvise solutions on the spot. Though it shares the same lack of armor as other octopuses, leaving it exposed to heavy damage, the giant octopus's enhanced strength and
I didn't expect it to be fighting another octopus.
unique abilities more than offset its reduced stealth, marking it as a force to be reckoned with. Next in A tier we have the Humbult Squid, also known as the Red Devil. The Humbult Squid is the wolf of the ocean. It doesn't have the best stats in any one category. It's not the fastest, it's not the largest, and it's not the deadliest. However, it is well above average in all of those categories. And that, plus some impressive hunting tactics, makes it one of the most fearsome mollusks in the game. During the day, Humbult Squid mains hang out in the deep sea out of sight. But as it gets dark, the hunt begins, and the squid rise from the depths to attack. They hunt in packs, coordinating with each other via pulsing red and white light. These feeding frenzies can tear through schools of fish in an instant, and then return back to the depths before builds like the dolphin can arrive to challenge them. Now, obviously, communicating with light pulses has the disadvantage of giving away your location, so faster characters will usually be able to avoid getting caught in the frenzy. But still, the fear factor alone of getting caught surrounded by large glowing red squid has to earn it a spot in A tier. And last in A tier we have the Mimic Octopus.
What the this thing looks freaky.
The Mimic Octopus is a smaller mollusk with below average stats for its archetype. However, the Mimic Octopus uses its color change ability in a truly unique way, to shapeshift into the form of other marine characters. In doing so, it can trick other players into misplaying, in many different ways. The most obvious strategy is just to mimic a character with a powerful venomous ability, like a lionfish.
I think even I would fall for that, because I would not investigate any further.
Or sea
That's... Yo, these things are really smart.
snake. This will cause predators to leave you alone for fear of getting stung or bitten. But this technique can also be used on offense to trick a target into a false sense of security.
That's crazy.
By mimicking something less dangerous like a starfish or flatfish.
What the hell?
Now, while this is all extremely impressive, it's worth noting that the Mimic Octopus's options are fairly limited.
Damn! My God!
All extremely impressive, it's
What did he...
worth noting that the Mimic Octopus's options are fairly limited. It's most effective at mimicking characters that already share its black and white stripe appearance. When it attempts to mimic something else, it's admittedly a lot less convincing. And if their disguise fails, their below average base stats leave them in a pretty vulnerable position should an enemy attack. A high skill, high reward technique, and one that deserves some pretty high recognition, but one that's also easy to overestimate. It's clever, but not quite broken. Okay, we've finally reached the S tier. If you've watched up until this point and are enjoying the video, I'd really appreciate it if you took a second to subscribe to the channel.
I already beat you to the point, man. I can't think what would be S tier if not squids, not octopuses and squids.
Thanks. At the bottom of S tier, we have another small mollusk with blue accents, the blue-ringed octopus. This is one of the smallest octopus builds in the game, but you wouldn't know it if all you saw was its power stat. The blue-ringed octopus has the deadliest venom of any mollusk. You wouldn't know it if all you saw was its power stat.
Damn!
The blue-ringed octopus has the deadliest venom of any mollusk, even deadlier than the Geographic Cone. Its venom is the same neurotoxin found in pufferfish, which can one-shot almost anything within only a few minutes. Because of the blue-ringed octopus's insanely high damage, this build opts for the aposomatism technique. where rather than attempting to hide from predators using camouflage,
Triggerfish are so fucking hideous.
when threatened, it instead boldly asserts its presence with vibrant neon blue markings all along its body.
It's letting you know, fuck with, play with me if you want.
In doing so, it is essentially flexing on other predator players, saying
Play
it
with
has
me if
no
you
reason to
want.
fear them and daring them to make a move. This strat is common among players with powerful toxic abilities, and most players quickly learn that bright colors mean danger.
Yeah.
Now, one of the
Yeah, that is crazy. Like like poisonous tree frogs. Like you in nature, bright colors means it's poisonous.
usual drawbacks of this ability is that it dramatically cuts the player's own stealth stat.
Yeah.
While this trade-off makes sense when it comes to scaring off predators, if you're a predator yourself, this makes the task of catching prey harder, as they'll be able to see you coming more easily. But because of the octopus's innate color change ability, the blue-ringed octopus is able to switch its intimidation ability on and off, allowing it to remain stealthy when it needs to. Now, of course, because it's on the small side, there's always a chance an opponent could overwhelm the octopus and take it down before it had the chance to counterattack. But more often than not, this small octopus is turning
Damn.
the tide on anything that dares challenge it. While it's definitely a glass cannon, the blue-ringed octopus's incredible stats and unique ability to subvert one of its major weaknesses earns it a spot in S tier.
Makes
And
sense.
on the topic of subverting weaknesses,
Coconut
next in S
octopus.
tier we have the coconut octopus. This is the octopus build with the highest intelligence stat of any mollusk, and the only one that makes tool use a core part of its strategy.
I've seen this. I just thought regular octopus can do that. I didn't realize it was a specific type that was doing that.
The octopus's biggest weakness is its pathetic defense stat,
Darn.
and this was actually a direct nerf to overpowered cephalopod builds of the past. Many cephalopods used to have thick, sturdy shells like other mollusks do, way back
Jesus.
during the Ordovician expansion. By using their incredibly high intelligence and tool use ability, the coconut octopus is able to regain access to heavy armor by equipping the shells of defeated scallops and clams. This makes them much less vulnerable to being picked off by a random attack from a fish or bird.
That's crazy.
In addition, kind of similar to the mimic octopus, most players don't have their guard up around a clam. So the shells also provide excellent cover to ambush opponents from. And after scoring a win, they can retreat to the safety of their shell to avoid getting it stolen. Similar to leopards dragging their food up into trees to avoid
Yeah.
hyenas. But shells aren't the only tools the coconut octopus has learned to incorporate into its combat repertoire.
What?
Using its water siphon, it can also launch debris at fish, making them one of the only builds in the
What the fuck?
game with access to a ranged attack.
That's
This is
crazy.
excellent at dealing chip damage without leaving the safety of the shell, meaning they don't fall into the same trap as clams by relying on defense with no means of counterattacking. Overall, this is truly one of the most impressive showcases
I seen a video of a octopus like this, like rolling down rolling down with the shells on.
of tool use in the entire game other than humans, as it legitimately subverts one of the weaknesses of the typical octopus build without sacrificing any of the perks. An easy S tier rank.
Cuttlefish.
And now-
Yeah.
Our final S tier, the Cuttlefish. The Cuttlefish has a number of impressive stats, including quite literally the highest stealth stat in the game. It has the most advanced version of the color change ability, and is
Look
able to
at
swap
that.
between colors at such an incredible rate that it can basically animate its skin. This
Cuttlefish is crazy. Like, these things are different, bro.
means that in addition to standard camouflage, the cuttlefish can also use its appearance to confuse and hypnotize its prey, or startle and intimidate its predators. Though it may not have the ability to fire projectiles like the coconut octopus, its grappling arms give it a deceptively long reach, often catching players off guard and setting them up to get comboed into the cuttlefish's venomous bite. Even though the cuttlefish has no abilities which buff its defense, actually landing a hit on this agile and mesmerizing character is genuinely one of the most difficult things in the game.
That shit, that shit would literally hypnotize me, bro. I'd probably be like, what the fuck is that?
Their speed stat
And
is a
then
lot
get got.
closer to that of a squid than an octopus, even though the rest of their abilities all align much more closely to the octopus. The cuttlefish combines the most powerful elements from both the squid, like high maneuverability and long reach, and the octopus, like intelligence, venom, and color changing, into one overpowered build. And for that, I'm ranking it as the #1 mollusk in the game. And that's the
Yeah.
tier list. Overall,
Makes sense. I ain't mad at that.
the viability of mollusks is super inconsistent. Best cephalopods are truly busted, but the faction is also filled with a lot of suboptimal jank and AFK farming builds. So there really is something for everyone here, from meta tryhards to low-tier heroes. Now, knowing which traits and abilities to invest in can be a difficult choice. Luckily for you, I've partnered with the game Cell to Singularity to provide you the
Shout out to that game. Yeah, man, Tier Zoo never disappoints with these things, bro. Never disappoints. Yeah, man, I'll be honest, bro. I had no idea the octopuses were mollusks, bro. I didn't realize that. That was crazy. But dope video by Tier Zoo, man.